What is Samsara? Samsara is the wheel of karma. Karma is any action you perform with a personal sense of doership, me and mine. Life experience is colored by karma, individual doership. Experiencing life or duality is not samsara, but obsession with duality, thinking that it is real or a fact, is samsara. Complaining is samsara. Vedanta calls the world samsara, that which never remains the same. Don't expect lasting happiness from the impermanent objects because there is no God nature in objects unless you see them as God. Samsara is the belief that joy is in the object. It is the struggle to be different than what you actually are. Upanishads have defined the ultimate reality, Brahman, as existence, consciousness, infinity, ananda. Since reality is infinite and changeless, it cannot generate any experience. And reality does not generate experience also because it lacks nothing. It has no desires. It is full and complete. But it indirectly generates experience by its mere presence. When it illumines unconscious or inert content, jada, like matter and mind, which is always experience, experience is then produced. Just like sun's presence produces actions, processes in everyone and everything in the world. That's why life is an unbroken stream of experience. We may say that reality wants to experience itself, its magnificence, in relative terms. Knowing all about sex and experiencing sex are two different things, aren't they? Another name for reality, Brahman, is I. The very first transaction that happens when I, the reality, apparently manifests as this world is I am, which is seemingly enclosed infinite awareness. However, it is still impersonal or universal. I am means I exist and I know I exist. This is still infinity, limitlessness, ananda or unbroken peace because there is no other in it. Our deep sleep state is the I am state. But when we experience I am in the waking state, why don't we experience this infinity, limitlessness or ananda, unbroken peace, which is intrinsic to I am? Well, in our ordinary, mundane experience, we know that we exist. And we also know that we exist. But we don't know that we are limitless. That's it. We know that we exist, and we also know that we exist. But we don't know that we are limitless. Complete knowledge is existence, awareness, infinity. This is direct, complete self-knowledge. I know what I am, Swarupa Jnana. Partial knowledge is existence awareness. Direct partial self-knowledge, I know that I am, Astitva Jnana. Partial self-knowledge is knowing that reality exists without understanding that you are it. In other words, we do not experience I am in its pure, complete, unadulterated form. We do not experience that we are blissfully and eternally aware that I am. The I in I am is the individual self for us, me, not the universal self, I. However, the existence aspect comes directly from the reality, but we do not know that our amness refers to the easiness or the beingness of reality. That's the difference. We need to be knowingly, but we don't, we are not. That's the ignorance part. Our personal consciousness, me, is a borrowed consciousness, identified consciousness, knowing consciousness, Vishesha Chaitanya. It is just an association of the I consciousness, the real you, with a particular state of mind. When I apparently contracts itself as me, which can happen only in imagination or illusion. So when I apparently contracts itself as me to express its unlimited potentiality through experience, it sacrifices its infinitude or completeness aspect to become finite. This apparent contraction is accompanied by a contraction or a diminishing of ananda or completeness or infinity that is inherent within it. That is the price I pays to experience itself in finite and finer details. Me does not, therefore, have much of reality. It has a bit of reality insofar as you experience it, but fundamentally it is empty of meaning. We cannot forget that I am, but we can forget or ignore what I am. Again, we cannot forget that I am, but we can forget or ignore what I am. This obvious sense of existence awareness, I am, is erroneously assumed to have come from the body. That is why we experience partial knowledge. Instead of saying I am, we say I am this. The fundamental premise of Advaita Vedanta and also of reason is that the reality is non-dual. Dual reality of the subject, mind, and the object, world, is untenable because they interact with and depend on each other. They rise and sink at the same time, right? Since reality is non-dual, there can only be one I, which is limitless and complete. So we must be that I, but must have forgotten our true nature and then erroneously think that we are this finite, incomplete me in search of that universal I. This is similar to a musk deer that runs all over seeking the musk fragrance, not realizing that the fragrance is of its own body. Forgetting or ignoring is the only possible way for this imagination or error to take place, because infinite I can never become finite me. I appears as finite me. I appears as finite me as a result of forgetfulness. That is why all our efforts in life, knowingly or unknowingly, are towards remembering this universal self, limitlessness, completeness or peace, happiness, as our true self because we are I at the core. We must have forgotten our completeness, our unlimited and eternal nature due to ignorance. Ignorance, avidya, lack of knowledge of our true nature, therefore, is the reason why we don't seem to understand and genuinely experience reality. Ignorance seems to cause this sense of limitation. Actually, the mind does not cause bondage. The mind is an inert reflector. Ignorance apparently causes the reality to think it is bound by the objects appearing in the mind. Mind is not the problem. Ignorance that I am the mind is the problem. When you are under ignorance, you see reality through Maya or illusion or universal ignorance as not reality or duality. You wear orange glasses to see the white snow. So, experiencing this duality as a fact is strictly a misunderstanding because reality is non-dual. Ignorance, however, is not stupidity. It is a self-imposed limitation. It is a temporary limitation, contraction, the reality I has freely assumed in producing this apparent world from which it can extricate itself to claim its original nature through experience, just as you ignore your infinite mind consciousness to apparently become a finite character in your dream to experience a finite world. In other words, ignorance of unlimited nature makes one feel limited, limited in space and limited in time. Space limitation causes desire, kama in Sanskrit, to seek infinity, completeness, or ananda. And time limitation causes fear, bhiti or bhayam in Sanskrit, that we may die before we are complete or full, or fear to protect yourself being harmed or destroyed, or fear of losing existence. However, it is to be understood that desire is a positive fear and fear is a negative desire. They are two sides of the same coin. Desire and fear, which are the products of rajas and tamas of maya or the universal ignorance, are the hallmarks of a separate self or ego, which is on its mission to seek permanent, unbroken fullness, peace in the fleeting objects, relations, world. And this is misery. This is samsara, the wheel of karma. Samsara is derived from its root word samru in Sanskrit, meaning round and round. Why misery? Because the permanent, uninterrupted peace, happiness is not in the objects, relations, or the world. We are three aspect beings: soul, mind, and body. In other words, causal body, ignorance, subtle body, and gross or physical body, which are dominated by the three gunas, attributes of nature: sattva, rajas, and tamas, respectively. Causal body is formless, infinite, everywhere, pervades the subtle and gross bodies. Subtle body is finite and pervades the gross body. Depending on one's desires and fears, soul's mission results in attachments, likes or raga, and aversions, dislikes called dvesha in our day-to-day lives, forming subtle and repeated impressions or tendencies called vasanas. Vasanas are stored in the subtle body and also the universal causal body, like a cosmic disk, which are nothing but the effects of ignorance. Vasanas are likes and dislikes in seed form and manifest as desires and fears in the subtle body's intellect, buddhi, due to ignorance, which then manifest in the manas as thoughts and emotions to prompt action. Action, in turn, creates likes and dislikes, raga dveshas, which will then be stored as vasanas again to repeat the cycle. This is called ignorance, desire, action cycle, or avidya, kama, karma cycle in Vedanta. AKK. I guess it's a real AKK. And this cycle is unending until you get out of it through knowledge. Knowledge that you were never bound by this cycle. So, in an enlightened being, a sage or a jnani, likes and dislikes or raga dveshas will not be generated. They will disappear forever. That's the difference between a common man in samsara and a sage. Samsara, ignorance, makes us hang on to two main beliefs or obstacles. Taking the body, number one, taking the body and the world as real with cause-effect relationship. In other words, obsession with not self, realism, ahamkara, confusion, illusion, misperception due to limited senses. All this is taking the body and the world as real. And the second belief or obstacle is holding on to dualism for moral and emotional support, like worldly and religious attachments, dependence on external conditions, people, relationships, and personal God. Happiness is out there in the objects and I need to grab it. Mamakara, delusion, moha, further misperception, strong belief that the world is other than what it actually is. This is conditioning number 2. Ahankara and mamakara, realism and dualism. These two are the most fundamental beliefs that keep samsara in business. As long as the obsession of cause-effect continues, the feeling of limitation is always traced to an external cause, world objects, but not to self-ignorance, which is the root cause. The mind gets affected because of the world, dualism, and the world gets affected because of the mind, realism. It is difficult to get out of this spiral of realism-dualism cycle. Samsara. Having the notion that one is born out of reality or part of reality leads one to samsara. Having the notion that one is born out of reality or part of reality leads one to samsara. Samsara may also be called ignorance plus illusion plus delusion cycle. Illusion is confusion, ill vision, and delusion is dual vision, moha. Or samsara is ignorance, realism, dualism cycle, IRD. Ignorance, realism, dualism cycle. Knowing that the one is identical with reality, aham brahmasmi, alone will get a person out of samsara. So what is required? Self-knowledge. The knowledge by which there is no need to know any other knowledge. The knowledge that I am that limitless awareness, not a limited individual. The most valid means of self-knowledge is Advaita Vedanta. It is not a religion, not a set of beliefs or dogmas, not a philosophy. It is pure science. Advaita Vedanta is the science of the self or Atma or soul and the science of the absolute truth, Brahman or reality. It is an adventure. Samsara is I am alone, and liberation or moksha is I alone am. In other words, I exist because the world is. That is samsara. The world exists because I am is liberation or moksha. Thank you.